Hey, this is Mike with AskTractorMike.com. I'm shopping for a rotary cutter, a 5-footer that'll go back in the woods and get in between trees, and I'm looking at a used one because I really don't want to take something new out in the woods and just tear it up. So I'm looking for a used one, and I've come across on Craigslist this Heston 3500. And I talk in another video about how to get parts for this particular model. I know I can get parts for it. Now I'm going to show you the things you do to look at to find out if it's worn out or if it's any good. And there are a couple of different parts and pieces that you need to look real careful at if you're shopping for a used rotary cutter, regardless of the brand. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I brought it with me today, and you always want to do this when you're looking at a rotary cutter, some blocks to go underneath it. Because we've got it up in the air now as high as it'll go, and I want to crawl underneath there and see what everything looks like underneath it. And the hydraulics of the tractor should hold it up, but you're never sure, you know, if a kid would jump on it or there'd be a leak developing the hydraulics. You don't want it coming down on top of you. So we're going to go under the machine. Now, the most critical part of a rotary cutter is the gearbox. And the way to tell if the gearbox is any good is to crawl underneath the machine. And there's the blades right there. They're hooked onto that plate. We're going to try to move that up and down. And if that thing moves up and down, that means the bearing up in here could be failing, and that the seal will go out of that eventually. And that's really expensive to get to and to replace. And we don't want that. Now this is really tight. I'm trying to move that up and down and it's not going at all. So I think we've got a winner here. Now I'm also, while I'm down here, going to look at the blades. And as you can see, the blade, there's a blade right there is fairly worn, but I can get under here with a grinder and touch that up and that'll cut just like a new one. So everything under here checks out. Now one thing I'll tell you when you're shopping, if you look underneath the machine where it was parked, if there's an oil, dead grass under there or any signs of oil, walk away. You don't want it. Now we're going to come up on top of the machine. I'm going to reach down here to the blades and grab the blade, and then I'm going to move it back and forth and then kind of watch. There's no play in that gearbox at all. If it takes a while from when you go from forward to reverse for that PTO shaft to move, then you might have a problem. This one's working good, so I think we've got a winner in the gearbox. The other thing though we want to look at is the oil and make sure it has oil in it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is take the top plug off of the gearbox. Now I know there's no play in the shaft going up and down on the gearbox, which is probably tells me the gearbox is good. But just to double check everything, I'm going to look in here. If the gearbox is bone dry, has no oil in it, then there's got to be a leak somewhere because it just doesn't go away, doesn't evaporate. So I'm going to look in here, and a lot of gearboxes will have a side plug on the side of them. This one does not. This one you can reach down and feel if it's got oil. And there it is. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it has oil in it. It's kind of a brownish color. It's not the normal color of oil, which means there's probably been a little bit of condensation in there. It's gotten a little bit of water. If I buy this brush hog, what I'll probably do is drain that and put new in. And I want to check in the owner's manual, which I think I can download and from the internet and find out what the level should be in this. This is a unique design. There's 4 bolts that hold this guard on, and if you pull those off, you're right into the top of the gearbox. It's open, and I probably would take those off and take the top off the gearbox, and then drain the oil, which I'll have to do with a suction device, and then put new oil in it, and I'll be good to go. But there's oil in it. Now, when you've got a problem, if there's no oil in there, or there's a mixture of oil and sawdust or something like that, that's somebody trying to sell you a problem, and you want to walk away from that. So we're good there. Now, don't get freaked out if the oil is white, which means there's quite a bit of water in there. I've seen brush hogs accumulate enough water that the oil will actually kind of turn a milkish color, and that's all right as long as everything is holding the oil in. I think you're okay there. All right. Next thing we're going to look at. I'm going to look at the tail wheel, and I've left the machine off the ground enough the tail wheel spins. I'm going to try to wiggle it on the shaft, and there's no play there. If there was play, that means the bearing inside is going out. Also look at where the holder for the tail wheel goes in, and it's got grease marks where somebody's tried to grease it and there's grease coming out. So it's been a pretty well maintained machine. Next thing we're going to do is go around the top of the machine and look for any welding. And right there's been some welding done on this machine. And I'm going to zoom in there where you can see it. That means at some point somebody's hit something and they've broken this area right here. And they've welded it back up, and they've tried to match the paint with red with Autumn Prime, and that didn't work too well. But that doesn't affect the performance of the machine, but it may be a negotiation ploy for me. I'm going to show the guy that's trying to sell it that weld and say, you know, it's had some welding done on it, and hopefully that'll get him down on the price. Now the last place we're going to go is the drive shaft, right there. And this may be a little hard to show, but I'm going to take the drive shaft loose and just kind of wiggle around the U-joints inside and make sure that everything's tight. And if they're really loose, it's kind of expensive to fix. But oh yeah, they're in good shape. And then back here is another one, and that all feels really tight in there. I see we've got a slip clutch back here. And that's a good thing. Slip clutches are, the more expensive machines had slip clutches on them. And if we buy the machine, and I've got a video on that, and I don't know whether you can see it there or not, but right there is the slip clutch. That will have to be slipped in order to ensure we've got proper rock protection. We do not have any kind of front chain guards on it. I did notice in the parts book you can order those if you want them. They're probably really, really expensive. So I think we've got a pretty good machine here. The last thing I want to do, I'm going to ask the owner if I can hook it up and run it back in the woods and cut a little bit of his brush. And if she checks out, I think it's a machine I may want to own. Hey, thanks for watching. I survive on web traffic. If you'd like to share this video with other tractor enthusiasts, that'd be awesome. I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. And hey, if you got comments, put them below. I'll try to answer them. Hey, thanks for watching.